What's up, guys, and welcome back to Beyond the Void Horror Podcast. My name is Alex, and today we're going to be doing a spoiler-free review of Blood Machines, the highly anticipated sci-fi visual crazy film that has been picked up by Shudder, and we're going to talk about it right now. Technically, Blood Machines had been finished and completed by 2019, and somehow Shudder picked it up, I guess, and put it up on their streaming service. So if you're looking to watch this, of course, and you belong to the streaming service, it should be up on any of the platforms they have it on. This, of course, is the brainchild of the duo who self-titled themselves as Seth Ickerman, or as some people originally called them, Rafael Hernandez and Savitri Jolie Gonfard. I believe I'm saying that appropriately, but they are the duo that came together and made the Turbo Killer music video for synthwave dark synth maestro Carpenter Brute. Now, if you recall, back in 2016, a pretty amazing music video came out for Carpenter Brute called Turbo Killer. And that video caused a huge wave on the internet to show the blistering visuals that mixed green screen and special effects and just artistic style all wrapped up into this one music video. And if I recall correctly, they were huge fans of Carpenter Brute, and of course they wanted to do a music video for them. I don't know if they got paid by Carpenter Brute, but they definitely did put it together, and it was a huge advertisement for the skills that they had. That was some of the most creative shit I saw on the screen, mixed with the amazing soundtrack. It just flowed so perfectly. It pretty much gave us a really good glimpse into what Turbo Killer 2, aka Blood Machines, was to be. Now, if I recall properly, they did 2 Kickstarter campaigns, just as a little background on this, and they raised about 300,000 euros in total. And now we get to see the fruits of their labor many years later on Shudder. Something interesting about this is that, as I recalled, it was going to be a film, and they turned it into 3 episodes on Shudder. I don't know if that's to try to say, hey, I would love to see more seasons of this, because I would, but they did it in that format instead of one film, which is what I believe you get when you backed the project and got the Blu-ray. Now, I'll just say right up front, this is probably one of the most beautiful, creative pieces of sci-fi glory that I've ever seen on film. It's way over the top in concept and is done in a sort of throwback kind of feel of the 80s, sort of. It's its own personal thing, and I've never seen quite anything like it. So fans of Turbo Killers should be pretty happy, and fans of Blade Runner should be pretty happy too, although it goes pretty out there. It really is a techno-colored madness, all to the soundtrack of Carpenter Brute's brand new material that he wrote specifically for this project. And I think the music is good on its own, but put it together with the visuals in this, it's like a match made in heaven. And something I don't think people really understand with the synthwave and dark synth crowd is that a lot of the music is done in a aesthetic way, so that it is kind of like envisioning this world that you see while listening to that music. Something that you might want to listen to while you're reading a great sci-fi novel that you love, or maybe something you would listen to and picture a movie in your head. And Seth Ickerman put that together with this to give those visuals and the music the justified vibe, I think, that they came up with in their mind and what other people might see. It is very unique and very different. It obviously has some pretty cheesy dialogue, which is kind of a throwback to some of the 80s sci-fi thing. Now, I don't want to say 80s all the time, because a lot of people compare synthwave to 80s or dark synth to 80s. And really, it is kind of like an alternate universe where if we had the technology back then, this is what we would be listening and watching. So it's a little different. Obviously, the acting is going to feel a bit off for most people, and I don't know, maybe that was a creative choice on their part. It didn't really bother me, and like I said, it kind of feels like a throwback. Maybe a sci-fi wink and a nod to the 80s. Nudity is not something that a lot of people who do art are afraid of necessarily. So if you are easily offended by the female body, this could easily trigger you. There's a lot of breasts, I'll just say that. But I think it's done in an artistic way, so it's not, it may be a lot, but I don't know, it kind of, I guess, is part of the message. The storyline is sparse, and what pieces you do get of it are pretty interesting, I'd say. I would love to explore that world, that lore that is based on this entire thing, Turbo Killer as well as this, because it's a lot going on and it doesn't necessarily explain it all to the viewer, which in my opinion, they're really trying to push hard on that button that is much like an art installation where you would go to a museum or a park and see this weird piece of art just sitting out there with no real explanation as to why it's there, and really just left up to interpret by the viewer and the person who's experiencing this entire thing. And this is very much like a visual representation on film. A sort of similar comparison that I could make to it, and not directly, is 2001: A Space Odyssey by Stanley Kubrick. Now that movie is broken up into chunks and does a lot of really weird visuals with it back in the day even, that I think you could closely compare the styles in that way. Not how it looks, not what the storyline is, obviously, but they both kind of do similar things and try to express it in that way artistically. Sort of making the story the backdrop while pushing the visuals and the aesthetic up front. My version of what the story is essentially that AI has evolved in machines and become somewhat of a living organism, and that fight between those who believe in AI being real and worth living and those who do not. So, Blade Runner fans, one thing's for sure though, I could literally watch 5 seasons of this, no problem, if it didn't take so long. So hopefully they get the money and the team that it would take to make more seasons of this, if they're going to go the seasons route, because I would love to watch it. If you guys have ever seen the show Lex, it's very weird and odd, but super creative and very interesting. And I think people who like that show will probably like this. So how do you rate something that you enjoyed immensely but can't compare it to anything else? I'm sure some people will just call it a glorified 50-minute music video with no point or purpose. There'll be others that'll be like, this is the most amazing thing I've ever seen. And then there will be others who will just say the acting shit, I'm never going to watch this again. But I think you'd be missing the point of what this is, because it is kind of its own thing. It's really hard to please everyone. So I'll just say I loved it and I would love to see more. I would highly recommend it to those who get the points that I made in this video. And if it's still available, I would still love to pick it up. And I hope to God, if Shudder, if you're listening and watching, and Seth Ickerman, please let us have a copy of this if we enjoy it, because I think you're going to find a cult following with this, and it's going to be something that everybody will want on their shelf. Just my opinion. But hey, what did you guys think? Did you watch this? Did you like it? Were you disappointed by it? Did you get the vibe and the aesthetic like I've been talking about? Do you enjoy synthwave and dark synth? Or is it something that was just too much for you to handle? I would love to hear what you think in the comments down below. I highly recommend it. I think you should check it out, especially if you have the subscription to Shudder. Why not? Let me know what you guys think down in the comments down below. Thank you for spending your time here. And if you enjoyed this content and want to see more, please hit the like and subscribe button, and even that little bell thing if it even works. But other than that, thank you guys again, and long live the void.